Hello, I'm Hypatia Tong, and I'm glad to welcome you to our very first Life HR microlearning lesson. Today, we're talking with one of our members, Amy Burgeon, about her perspective on today's changing workplace. Thank you, Amy, for joining us today. So, can you tell us maybe a little intro, maybe your current title, your role, and the company you work for?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. So I work for the Leadership Edge, and we have been in business for over 30 years. We develop leaders, managers, and teams, and we work from the bench to the boardroom. So we do that work through programs, coaching, and consulting. And my role is the best job in the world, I like to call it. I'm Vice President of Business Development, and I get to connect with leaders of the most innovative companies in the world and really help them to accelerate getting their drugs and or devices or technology to market. And so doing that faster through effective communication, leadership, et cetera.
Excellent. That sounds amazing. And it's so great that you found your place in the best job in the world. Not many people can say that. So you're here to talk to us about a couple things, but maybe the first question I really want to ask you, and maybe it'll all encompass everything, but we're obviously still in the midst of COVID. We're kind of tired of it as as we're hearing about it all the time, but we are trying to handle things accordingly in the workplace, personally. So the pandemic forever transformed our industry and the way we work. So, however, the ecosystem in which we're operating continues to face dramatic changes. So, what are some of the trends you are seeing across your client companies, and how do those impact our roles in HR?
Yes, there's continues to be so many changes. It's like as soon as we catch up to one thing, then something else is happening, right? And I think one of the biggest things that's on a lot of leaders' minds right now is the capital markets. One thing that we saw through the pandemic was really a boom in the biotech markets, and it was just so wonderful to see that influx of cash and that really positive attention on the industry and the work that all of our scientists are doing. And now we're facing the closure of those capital markets, and really for the unforeseeable future. And so there's a lot that translates to what our companies are doing strategy wise and people wise. So you know when it comes to strategy, we're hearing a lot of our CEOs and executive teams talk about the importance of extending the runway. A lot of companies went public during this boom, and you know, some of them maybe a bit prematurely as well, which is another challenge. But really now they're really trying to extend that runway. There are a lot of public companies who have less than a year of runway. So it's interesting as they start to realign around a strategy that's going to take them forward. We're seeing companies, really kind of limit their focus on a program, and so downsizing that department, laying off employees. We're also seeing on the flip side a lot of companies who were able to raise a ton of money during the pandemic and they're still growing. So there's sort of that duality in the marketplace right now of some companies really having to really tighten things up, and others continuing to have success, but also being mindful of what's happening in the market. So with all that said, there's still a shortage of qualified labor, there's increasing cost of talent, and all of that. So what we tell our clients is that this is an ideal opportunity to really use learning and development as a strategic lever, because when you're maximizing efficiencies, when you're having people work better together, the strategies are aligned, there's more efficiencies, your runway is going to last longer. And that's really where the return of investment comes for learning and development. Whether you're expanding rapidly or maybe downsizing to lengthen your runway, there's a lot of power in that. And then also, I would say with some of those, what we're also seeing, and this is not just in the last couple years, kind of historically in our industry, we're not seeing a ton of bench depth, the bench strength, and then the depth that there are other people in the organization that have that knowledge so that if that person were to walk out the door, say to be recruited by another company, all that knowledge walks out the door. So, there's a lot of opportunity in cross-pollinating those knowledge bases and really reducing risk to the organization. So those are a couple of things that we've been spending a lot of time talking about in the last 6 months.
Yeah, it seems like a ever-changing and uphill battle, but I think trying to create that focus will really drive some, successes here and there, especially when we have so much on our plates. Also, thank you, Amy, for sharing your insights with us on this important topic. If you want to follow up directly with Amy, you can send a message from our Life HR community by going to the company directory and searching by name. If you have a topic that you're, very much interested in, and we are always open to feedback, and essentially, if you feel like they could benefit from it, please send a note to our info at lifehrn.com. And thanks again for joining us.
Yeah.
All right.